Hello there, dear friend. I'm so glad you've joined me today. Let's settle in together for a moment. Maybe you're on your porch with a cup of tea. Maybe you're at the kitchen table where the afternoon light falls just right. Out in my own garden, the breeze carries the scent of soil and something faintly sweet from the blooms. The birds are busy. The world feels quiet. And in the corner of my shed, I see them old metal pieces tucked away for years. A bent rakehead, a bucket with rust creeping along its seams, a drawer that hasn't held tools in decades. You and I both know why we keep these things. They've been part of our hands, our work, our seasons. They hold more than metal, they hold stories. And though time has marked them, that doesn't mean their usefulness has ended. In fact, I believe this is when they can shine the brightest, when they're given a new role, a second life. Today, I want to walk with you through 17 gentle, clever ways to turn scrap metal into pure garden magic. We won't need to strain or spend much. Just a little imagination, a few easy steps, and a willingness to see beauty where others see only rust. Because, my friend, you don't need youth or shiny new things to make something beautiful. You just need care, patience, and a touch of heart. Do you remember the feel of a good, sturdy rake in your hands? The kind that helped you gather golden leaves in the crisp air of autumn or smooth the soil for planting in spring. Sometimes those faithful tools lose their handles. Their teeth grow crooked and their days of raking seem over. But here's the truth, an old rakehead still has work to do, just in a gentler way. Take that rusty rakehead and give it a quick brush with a wire scrub or even a rag. Don't aim to make it spotless. A bit of weathered character is part of its charm. Choose a spot on your fence garden shed or even along the side of your porch where you'd like a little functional beauty. Using 2 sturdy screws, mount the rakehead sideways so that the tines point outward. You'll see instantly how its shape naturally lends itself to holding things. Hang your garden gloves on one tine, a sun hat on another. A pair of pruning shears, a small hand trowel, or even a lightweight watering can will fit perfectly. Everything you need will be at eye level, easy to grab without bending or rummaging. This setup is especially kind to those of us who appreciate keeping our backs and knees happy. Beyond the practicality, there's something almost poetic about it. Here's a tool that once turned the earth, now holding the tools that continue the work. It's like a trusted friend who can't do the heavy lifting anymore, but still offers wisdom and support. If you want to take it a step further, you can paint the rakehead a cheerful color, perhaps a sunny yellow or a soft sage green to match your garden's personality. Or leave the rust as is for a more rustic farmhouse feel. Either way, it becomes more than a tool hanger. It's a small piece of your garden story mounted where everyone can see. Each time you reach for your gloves or clippers, you'll be reminded that usefulness doesn't fade with time. It simply changes shape. That rake may no longer rake, but it still serves, and that's a quiet kind of beauty worth celebrating. Do you have one of those old metal buckets sitting in a corner, maybe with a dent in the side or a patina of rust that tells its age? Perhaps it once held tools, apples, or even wash water back in the day. Its carrying days may be over, but that doesn't mean it's finished giving. In fact, an old bucket makes one of the most charming planters you could ask for. Start by checking the bottom. If there aren't already drainage holes, drill a few small ones to keep roots healthy. This part doesn't require much strength, just a steady hand and a basic drill. If you'd rather not drill, you can also place smaller pots inside the bucket and let them drain on their own. Now comes the fun part, deciding its look. If you enjoy a splash of color brush on a coat of bright paint, a turquoise that recalls summer skies, or a cheerful red that pops against green leaves. For a vintage farmhouse, leave the rust and weathering exactly as they are. That mottled surface has a story to tell, and there's a special kind of beauty in letting it shine. You might even stencil on a word like bloom or welcome for a personal touch. Fill your bucket with fresh potting soil, then choose plants that will suit its personality. Lavender gives you fragrance and soft purple blooms. Daisies add cheer, while trailing petunias will spill gently over the edges, softening the metal with a cascade of color. Placement is simple. You can set the bucket beside your front steps under a sunny window or line a few along your fence for a cottage garden look. And because it's portable, you can move it to follow the sun or bring it closer when you want to enjoy the flowers from your favorite chair. Every time you pass by, that old bucket will feel less like a forgotten container and more like a piece of living art. The rust won't matter. In fact, it becomes part of the design. A reminder that aging brings character and character brings charm. Just as in life, it's not the shine that matters most, but the way we keep holding beauty inside us season after season. Maybe you've got a drawer in the garage that clinks and clanks every time you open it, a jumble of old wrenches, some bent, others rusted, many mismatched. They might no longer turn bolts or fix machines, but they can still shape your garden in a way that feels sturdy and artistic all at once. Imagine walking along the edge of a flower bed and seeing these tools standing upright like a little row of metallic soldiers, each one with its own story. To make this happen, start by gathering enough wrenches to outline the section of garden you have in mind. Clean them lightly with a brush to remove loose dirt, but don't worry about making them perfect. That patina is part of their charm. In your chosen spot, press each wrench halfway into the soil so the handle is buried, and the open head is above ground. If the soil is hard, you can make a narrow slit with a trowel or small spade before placing the wrench in. Alternate large and small sizes for a playful textured look, or line them up evenly for a more structured formal border. Not only will this edging last for years without rotting or warping, it's also a conversation starter. Neighbors and visitors will pause, smile, and perhaps even recall the days they used similar tools. It's a little reminder that even the most utilitarian objects can soften into beauty when they're given a new role. One of the loveliest things about this idea is how low maintenance it is. Once they're in place, those wrenches won't blow away in the wind or shift easily. You don't have to bend or kneel to fuss over them. They stand tall, marking your garden with a kind of quiet pride. And in a symbolic way, they represent something more: the strength of things and people who have worked hard all their lives. They may be a bit worn, a little weathered, but they still hold the power to shape and protect. Every time you see those wrenches standing guard along your garden, you'll be reminded that usefulness isn't lost with age. It just takes a new, often more beautiful form. Some treasures hide in plain sight, tucked at the back of kitchen cupboards. Maybe you have an old oven rack, a cooling rack, or a metal grate that's bent just enough to keep it from working as it once did. Instead of letting it sit unused, why not give it a chance to bring vertical beauty to your garden? Start by choosing a sunny patch of fence wall or even the side of your shed where you'd love to see plants climbing. Hold your rack against the surface and secure it with screws or garden wire. You don't need heavy tools or complicated measurements. The beauty of this project is in its simplicity. The metal bars already have the perfect structure for plants to weave through. Once your trellis is secure, plant something with gentle climbing habits right at its base. Morning glories are a romantic choice, their trumpet-shaped blooms opening with the day. Sweet peas bring both color and fragrance, while black-eyed Susan vines add a cheerful golden touch. As these plants grow, they'll wind their way through the grid, turning a plain piece of metal into a living wall. For those with limited mobility, this project has another advantage. It brings the blooms closer to eye level so you can enjoy their colors and scents without bending down. And unlike wooden trellises, a metal grate won't warp, rot, or need much upkeep. A quick brush now and then is all it takes to keep it ready for the next growing season. Over time, your trellis will take on a personality of its own, a blend of human handiwork and nature's gentle persistence. You might even notice how the sunlight catches on the metal in the early morning, creating little flashes of silver between the leaves. It's funny how something as humble as a cooling rack once used to cradle fresh cookies can now cradle living vines. In both cases, it's a frame for something beautiful, something made with care. And in your garden, that old piece of metal becomes a quiet reminder that we too can grow in unexpected directions, even after we've left our first purpose behind. It's amazing how often beauty begins in the recycling bin. Those empty soup or coffee cans you've been saving for craft projects, or perhaps meaning to toss, are little blank canvases just waiting for some love. With a few simple touches, they can become both colorful planters and a soft musical feature in your garden. Start by giving the cans a good rinse and removing any labels. If there's a bit of glue left, warm soapy water and a gentle scrub will do the trick. Next, drill a few small drainage holes in the bottom, nothing fancy, just enough to keep roots from sitting in water. Now the fun begins: painting. Choose colors that make you smile. Sunny yellows for cheer, deep greens to blend with foliage, or soft blues to mirror the sky. You might even paint each can in a different shade for a playful mix. Once the paint is dry, add a bit of character with stencils, flowers, leaves, or even a favorite word. Drill or punch 2 small holes near the rim on opposite sides. Thread wire twine or light chain through them to create a handle for hanging. You can hang these little planters at varying heights from a rod fence beam or tree branch. Fill some with trailing plants like ivy or lobelia, letting them spill gently over the edges. Leave a few cans empty and let them catch the breeze. They'll create a soft tinkling sound as they sway and tap against one another. It's not loud, but a gentle music that blends with bird song and rustling leaves. For seniors, this is a project that's both easy and rewarding. The cans are light, so there's no heavy lifting. You can paint and plant them right at a table, then simply hang them up when you're ready. And because they're portable, you can change their arrangement as often as you like a new melody, a new pattern of color whenever the mood strikes. What I love most about this idea is how it reminds us that life's scraps can still dance, sing, and bloom. A can that once held soup for a family dinner can now hold blossoms for neighbors to admire. The sound it makes on a breezy afternoon isn't just music. It's a whisper of second chances. Do you remember the days when a sturdy metal funnel was a kitchen or workshop essential? Maybe yours once guided flour into jars or oil into engines. Now it sits in a dusty corner, a little dented, perhaps speckled with rust. But that funnel still has a gift to give, not to us directly this time, but to the feathered friends who bring life and song to our gardens. Turning it into a bird feeder is wonderfully simple. First, give the funnel a quick clean with warm water and a brush. You don't need to make it shiny, the weathered look gives it charm. Flip it upside down so the wide opening becomes the base. This is where the seed will spill gently for the birds to enjoy. To hang it, thread sturdy wire twine or even a length of rustic chain through the handle, or the narrow spout securing it tightly. You can suspend it from a tree branch, a pergola beam, or a strong fence hook somewhere you can reach easily without needing a ladder. If you'd like to prevent seeds from falling straight to the ground, you can place a small mesh dish or shallow saucer just beneath the funnel's mouth to catch the extras. Now comes the part that brings the magic, filling it with bird seed. Choose a blend that attracts the birds you love, cardinals, finches, or chickadees. The funnel's shape naturally shields the seed from light rain and keeps it from scattering in the wind. And when it's time to refill, it's as easy as lifting and pouring. Before long, you'll notice flashes of color flitting around your garden, quick wing beats, and the cheerful chatter of grateful visitors. Watching them come and go turns an ordinary afternoon into something quietly joyful. This project is gentle on the hands and body, no heavy lifting, no bending low, just a simple gesture of hospitality to nature. And in doing so, we're reminded that usefulness doesn't end with age or wear. A funnel that once served in practical tasks now serves in the quiet, life-giving work of feeding and welcoming. In the end, it's not just a bird feeder, it's a symbol, a little piece of your garden that says there's still beauty and purpose here, and the birds with their songs will answer back. Some things in the garage seem to hold more dust than purpose, like that old metal drawer from a worn-out toolbox. Maybe it's scratched, dented, and hasn't held a proper tool in years. But even a tired drawer can serve again, especially if you give it a place in the garden where it can shine. Start by wiping it clean inside and out. You don't need to sand or polish unless you want to. The scuffs and scrapes are part of its charm. Then choose a spot along your fence or shed wall that's within easy reach, no bending or stretching required. Using sturdy screws or brackets, fasten the drawer directly to the surface so that it forms a little open shelf. Once it's secure, you've got yourself a rustic organizer with endless possibilities. You could line it with small clay pots holding herbs like basil and thyme, or tuck in a few seed packets and hand tools you use often. A little ceramic bird, a tiny lantern, or a favorite garden ornament can add a touch of whimsy. If you prefer, place a shallow tray inside to hold collected flowers or freshly picked herbs before you bring them indoors. Because it's mounted off the ground, this organizer keeps things dry, visible, and easy to grab. It's perfect for gardeners who prefer to work standing up, sparing knees and backs from the strain of crouching. And unlike a traditional shelf, its deep sides mean nothing slides off easily when the wind picks up. If you're feeling playful, you could paint the drawer in a color that contrasts with your fence, a warm terracotta shade, a classic barn red, or even soft lavender to match nearby blooms. Or keep it raw and rustic, letting the weather slowly add its own patina. Every time you reach for your gloves or a packet of seeds, you'll be reminded that what's been cast aside can still offer daily kindness. The drawer might not hold wrenches anymore, but it can hold the things that help beauty grow. And perhaps in a quiet way, it will also hold memories of the hands that once opened and closed it, of the work it used to do, and of how you chose to give it a second chapter, not in a workshop, but in a garden where life still blossoms. If you've ever renovated a bathroom or inherited an older home, you might remember those wall-mounted soap dishes, sometimes porcelain, sometimes metal, often sitting unused once the style changed. Perhaps one is still tucked away in a box of "I'll do something with that one day" items. Well, that day has arrived. In the garden, these little dishes can become delicate, almost poetic cradles for air plants or small succulents. Start by cleaning the dish gently. If it's metal and a bit rusty, you can leave the patina for character. If it's porcelain, a simple wipe will bring back its quiet shine. Choose a spot on your garden fence wall or even the side of your shed where it will be sheltered from heavy rain. Using screws, nails, or a strong adhesive made for outdoor use, mount the soap dish securely so the basin faces upward. Add a thin layer of green sheet moss inside for softness, then place your air plant or a small succulent right in the center. No soil is needed for air plants, just a light misting once or twice a week will keep them happy. For succulents, a pinch of sandy soil works beautifully. This is a project that's especially gentle on the body. It's done entirely at a comfortable standing height with no heavy lifting and no digging. The plants are easy to water without bending, and the display stays neat and tidy. The beauty of this idea lies in its simplicity. Against the backdrop of wood brick or even weathered paint, the soap dish becomes a tiny stage for a living sculpture. The clean lines of the metal or porcelain frame the soft curves of the plant, creating a contrast that's quietly striking. And there's a little nostalgia woven into it too. A soap dish once held something meant to cleanse and refresh. Now it holds a piece of nature, also something that refreshes the spirit in its own gentle way. Each time you pass by, it's a small reminder that even the humblest items can cradle life and beauty given the chance. In a world that often rushes to replace this little project, whispers another truth: we can restore, repurpose, and still find grace in the things that have already been with us for years. Every kitchen seems to gather a small collection of mismatched spoons over the years. Some bent, others tarnished, a few with handles worn smooth from decades of stirring. They may not make it back to the dinner table, but they can tell a different kind of story in the garden, the story of what's growing and where. Start by gathering your spoons and giving them a quick wash. They don't have to be spotless. The patina of age adds charm. Place each spoon one at a time, bowl side down, on a sturdy surface and gently flatten it using a mallet or hammer. You'll want to smooth the edges a bit to make writing easier. This is a slow, satisfying process, no rush needed. Once flattened, you can write directly on the metal using a permanent marker, or for a more lasting effect, use a metal stamping kit to etch the names of your plants. Words like rosemary, lavender, or tomatoes will not only guide your planting, but also bring a smile each time you see them. To place them, simply press the handle of each spoon into the soil near the matching plant. They're sturdy, won't rot in the rain, and can withstand the sun without fading quickly. Because they sit upright, the names are visible without bending over too far, making them especially friendly for gardeners who prefer to keep movements gentle. You might find that visitors to your garden pause to admire them, perhaps running a finger over the lettering or reminiscing about a similar spoon from their own past. In this way, the markers become more than just functional. They spark conversation, connect memories, and add personality to your growing space. And perhaps the sweetest part is knowing that these spoons once served in another way, stirring soup, scooping sugar, maybe even feeding little hands at the table. Now they serve again in the company of flowers and herbs, marking the life you've planted. It's a reminder that usefulness doesn't fade. It just shifts into new forms, often with more character than before. So the next time you see a bent or lonely spoon, think of it not as clutter, but as a storyteller waiting to take root in your garden. In many homes, there's an old wire basket tucked away somewhere, perhaps a round egg-gathering basket from long ago, or a fryer basket once used in a busy kitchen. Its days of carrying breakfast or draining potatoes may be over, but in the garden it can take on a new, graceful life. Begin by lining the inside of the basket with coconut fiber or sheet moss. This not only holds the soil, but also keeps it from spilling through the open metal weave. If your hands tire easily, you'll be glad to know that moss and fiber are light and easy to handle. Once the lining is in place, add good potting soil, filling it about 3/4 of the way. Now choose plants that will trail gently over the sides. Petunias, ivy, or lobelia are perfect choices. Their blooms and leaves will spill over the wire, softening its structure and creating the look of a living waterfall. You can also mix in herbs like thyme or oregano, so the basket becomes both beautiful and useful. For hanging, use strong hooks or chains, and position the basket at eye level on a fence post, pergola beam, or sturdy tree limb. This height makes it easy to water and tend without stooping, and it keeps the blooms right where you can enjoy them. Over time, the plants will grow and mingle, and the metal frame will all but disappear beneath the leaves and flowers, though now and then a glint of it will peek through, catching the light and adding a touch of rustic charm. The basket, once purely practical, becomes part of the art of your garden. There's something satisfying about seeing an object transformed like this. A wire basket that might have been discarded now holds life, color, and fragrance. And each time you pass it, you're reminded that beauty often blooms when we find new ways to use what we already have. In a quiet way, the basket reflects what many of us have learned in our own lives, that we can adapt, take on new roles, and still be full of purpose even when our original task is long past. If you've ever replaced a swinging old bicycle or a piece of outdoor furniture, you might have a length of chain left over, rusted stiff in spots, maybe tangled. It's easy to see it as scrap, but in a garden, that chain can become a striking vertical display that's both practical and beautiful. Start by finding a spot along your fence arbor or pergola where you can hang it securely. Use a heavy-duty hook or screw to anchor the chain at the top. Let it drape straight down so it forms a vertical ladder of sorts. The beauty of this setup is that the chain itself becomes the framework for whatever you choose to hang. Using simple S-hooks, you can attach small tin planters filled with trailing flowers or herbs. Add a few solar lanterns to glow softly in the evenings, or a couple of wind chimes for gentle music on breezy days. Because the chain is sturdy, it can handle a mix of textures and weights without strain. One of the best parts about this project is that it requires no digging, no bending, and very little lifting. Everything can be added or rearranged at eye level, so it's friendly for gardeners who want to avoid heavy or low-to-the-ground work. You can change it with the season's lush greenery and blooms in spring and summer, decorative ornaments, or dried arrangements in autumn and winter. The rust on the chain adds its own charm, especially when set against the vibrant colors of flowers or the warm glow of lights. It tells a quiet story, once a link in something entirely different. Now it connects beauty in the garden instead of parts in a machine. Every time you pass by, you might notice how the pieces you've hung sway and catch the light, how the plants grow and weave themselves into the chain's open spaces. It's a reminder that even in stillness there can be movement. Even in age there can be purpose. And perhaps that's the real magic here, taking something that was once strong in one way and letting it be strong in another, not by pulling or carrying, but by lifting beauty up for all to see. Some kitchen tools carry the marks of many meals: a dented metal ladle that once stirred hearty stews or ladled soup on chilly evenings. Over time, it might lose its shine or balance, but in the garden, it can still hold something nourishing, not for the body this time, but for the spirit. Begin by cleaning the ladle's bowl and handle. You don't have to scrub away every bit of patina. That soft, weathered finish will blend beautifully with your plants. Fill the bowl with cactus mix or sandy soil, both of which are perfect for succulents and air plants. Gently press your chosen plant into the soil. Something small and tidy works best, like a miniature echeveria, a trailing string of pearls, or even a single air plant that needs only occasional misting. To hang your new creation, tie a length of jute twine or wrap a bit of copper wire around the handle, forming a loop. Find a branch pergola beam or fence hook that keeps it at a comfortable height for watering and enjoying. Because succulents need so little care, this tiny hanging garden becomes an easy, low-maintenance joy. When the sun hits the ladle, you'll see the gentle gleam of metal against the soft greens and pinks of the plant. It's a simple contrast that somehow feels deeply peaceful. And as the seasons pass, your plant will grow slowly, steady as a friend who's been with you for years. The beauty of this project is its intimacy. It's small enough to notice closely, to admire each leaf, each curve of the handle. It asks for no hard labor, only a gentle hand and a bit of attention now and then. In its first life, the ladle served by carrying nourishment to the table. In this second life, it carries something just as sustaining, a little piece of living beauty cradled in metal that's been softened by time. It's a reminder that purpose can be found in new places, and that what once served in one way can bring comfort in another. Tucked away in many kitchens is an old cookie or cooling rack, a little bent from years of use. Maybe it once held trays of fresh baked bread or batches of oatmeal cookies. Now it sits unused, but with a bit of creativity, it can be lifted from the cupboard to serve your garden in a new way. Begin by finding 2 matching racks, or at least 2 similar in size. Choose a sunny spot along your fence or the side of your shed, somewhere your plants can soak up daylight without you needing to bend low to tend them. Using screws or sturdy wire, mount the racks horizontally, one above the other, leaving enough space in between for your plants to grow tall without being shaded. The metal grid of the rack makes a perfect stage for small clay pots, yogurt cups, or tin cans repurposed as planters. You can fill them with herbs like basil or parsley, tender greens like lettuce, or even cheerful flowers such as pansies or violas. The open design of the rack allows rainwater to drain freely while keeping the plants lifted away from pests that might visit the ground. What makes this project so senior-friendly is the height. You can water, prune, and admire your seedlings without crouching. It's also wonderfully adaptable. When one plant finishes its season, simply swap the container for another, keeping the display fresh year-round. Over time, you'll notice how the racks gather little moments of beauty, the sun catching on the metal in the morning, a tendril of green curling through the grid. The satisfaction of seeing something you planted flourish. And because these racks are light and easy to mount, you can change their arrangement whenever you feel inspired. It's funny to think that something once used to cool what you baked indoors now supports life you've nurtured outdoors. In both roles, it's been a helper, quietly holding what matters until it's ready to be enjoyed. And perhaps that's the perfect reminder that our own lives can hold and support beauty in many different seasons, each one just as valuable as the last. If you've ever had an old metal fan that stopped working, you might remember the circular guard that once spun with purpose, keeping fingers safe from the blades. Over time, the fan's motor may have failed, but that guard, sturdy, symmetrical, and full of potential, still has more to give. In your garden, it can become the foundation for a wreath that lasts all year. Start by giving the fan guard a light cleaning. A little rust isn't a problem. It will blend beautifully with natural materials. Lay it flat on a table and begin wrapping it with natural jute, twine, ribbon, or strips of burlap. You don't have to cover every bit of metal. Letting some show through adds a rustic charm. Next, weave in decorative elements that speak to the season. For spring, try faux ivy, silk flowers, or sprigs of lavender. In summer, add seashells or small wooden ornaments. For autumn, weave in dried flowers, pine cones, or bits of wheat. And for winter, a touch of evergreen and a ribbon bow can make it festive without being overwhelming. Once decorated, hang your wreath on a garden fence, shed door, or patio wall using a sturdy hook. Because the fan guard is metal, it will withstand the elements far better than a traditional vine or wood wreath. And since the decorations can be swapped out easily, you can refresh it with the seasons without starting over. This is a gentle, tabletop-friendly project. No bending, no heavy lifting, just a bit of creativity and light handiwork. It's perfect for working on with a cup of tea by your side, perhaps, while the afternoon sun streams in through a window. The transformation feels symbolic, too. The fan guard once moved air indoors, cooling the room on warm days. Now it frames beauty outdoors, catching the breeze rather than creating it. Both roles serve comfort and joy, just in different ways. Each time you see it hanging there, you'll be reminded that the shape of usefulness changes over time. But the heart of it, the wish to bring beauty and comfort, remains the same. It's funny how the smallest bits of metal often get overlooked. Those little pull tabs from soda juice or sparkling water cans usually end up in the trash without a second thought. But with a bit of patience and a touch of imagination, they can become something light, lovely, and surprisingly strong. A metallic garland for your garden. Start by collecting a handful of tabs. Give them a quick wash in warm, soapy water, then lay them out to dry. Linking them together is simple. Slip one tab through the opening of another, then fold or bend slightly to secure the connection. It's a bit like making paper chains as a child, only this version will glimmer in the sunlight and last far longer. Once you've built a chain to your desired length, think about how you'd like to use it. You can drape it along a fence, hang it vertically as a sparkling curtain, or use it to suspend lightweight items such as small planters, wine spinners, or solar lanterns. The gentle metallic twinkle catches the light during the day and reflects the glow of lanterns at night. Because the tabs are so lightweight, this project is easy on the hands and can be done entirely at a table. There's no heavy lifting, no bending, and no need for special tools beyond maybe a small pair of pliers if you want a tighter connection. And here's the lovely part. The chain's beauty comes not just from its shimmer, but from the fact that it's made entirely of what would otherwise be waste. Every glint is a reminder of how little things often overlooked can come together to create something much greater. When you hang your soda tab chain and watch it sway in the breeze, you may find yourself smiling, not just at the way it looks, but at the thought that something so simple could add such a gentle magic to your space. Like many things in life, it's proof that small efforts linked together can create something enduring and full of light. It might sound unusual at first, reusing a piece of an old mouse trap in the garden. But hidden inside that little wooden device is a small metal spring clamp with surprising potential. Once removed from its original frame, it can become a clever holder for tiny pot seed packets or plant labels. Start by carefully disassembling the trap. Remove the wooden base and any parts you don't need, keeping just the spring clamp. Clean it thoroughly with a brush and soapy water, then let it dry. The metal will have a rustic, aged look that suits a garden setting perfectly. Next, decide where you'd like your holder to live. You can mount the spring directly to a fence, a piece of reclaimed wood, or even the side of a garden shed. Use small screws or strong outdoor adhesive to fix it securely in place. Once it's mounted, gently press open the clamp and slide in your chosen item. It could be a laminated plant label so you always remember what's planted in a certain bed, or perhaps a miniature terracotta pot holding a tiny succulent or air plant. You might even use it to hold a seed packet for easy access during planting season. This little project is friendly for gardeners who prefer to work at a comfortable standing height. There's no digging, no heavy lifting, and everything is within easy reach. And because the clamp is small, it invites creativity without demanding much space. The charm here is in the unexpected. Guests in your garden might pause, leaning closer to see what's nestled in the clamp, smiling at the ingenuity of giving such an unlikely item a second life. Once a tool for keeping pests away, the spring now holds life, beauty, and gentle utility. It's a reminder that transformation is possible for even the most unlikely things, and perhaps for ourselves, too. We can move from roles that no longer serve us into ones that hold something precious, offering a quiet kind of joy each time someone notices. Old furniture often leaves behind pieces too beautiful to throw away. Iron table legs with their curves, scrolls, or sturdy straight lines are a perfect example. Maybe they came from a broken patio table, an indoor sewing machine stand, or a vintage vanity. They might be chipped, rusted, or paint-worn, but their strength and elegance remain, and in your garden they can rise again as sculpture stands. Begin by cleaning the legs with a brush to remove loose rust or dirt. If you like, you can paint them black for a classic wrought iron look, white for shabby chic, or leave them bare for a rustic patina that will deepen with the seasons. Decide whether to anchor them upright directly in the soil, or bolt them to a deck or fence post for added stability. Once secured, the fun begins. The flat top of the leg can hold a small flower pot overflowing with blooms, a lantern that glows at dusk, or even a birdhouse. You could also stack smooth river stones or place a small garden statue on top, creating a piece that draws the eye upward. Because the structure is already at a comfortable height, tending to whatever you place on it is easy, no bending, no strain. And it's sturdy enough to stand through the weather, giving your garden a touch of permanence among the changing seasons. What makes this idea truly special is how it blends strength and grace. Iron, after all, is meant to endure. It once supported a table that may have held meals, laughter, and conversation. Now it supports beauty in the open-air flowers catching the light, or a lantern glowing softly in the evening. Each time you pass by, you'll see not just the object you've placed there, but the history beneath it. The curves and lines of the iron speak of craftsmanship from another time now woven into the living story of your garden. It's a quiet, steadfast presence. A reminder that even when one chapter closes, another can begin just as solid and perhaps even more beautiful than before. As we've wandered together through these ideas, dear friend, I hope you've felt what I feel, that quiet thrill when something once forgotten finds new purpose. Each rusty rakehead, dented bucket, and weathered chain carried its own history, its own years of service. And yet none of them were finished. They were simply waiting for a second chapter, just as many of us find new ways to shine in different seasons of life. In the garden, transformation is all around us. Seeds become blooms, bare branches leaf out again, and rain-washed soil bursts into green. It reminds us that beauty isn't just in the brand new. It's in the well-loved, the well-used, the things that have stood the test of time. The same is true for us. Our hands may work more slowly now, but they still know how to create, to nurture, to bring joy. When you take a piece of scrap metal and turn it into something lovely, you're not just making a planter or a trellis. You're making a statement that worth isn't lost when the shine fades, and that care can bring out beauty in the most unexpected places. You're filling your garden with more than flowers and greenery. You're filling it with stories, memories, and love. So, which of these ideas sparked something in you? Which piece tucked away in your shed or garage might be ready to bloom again? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Share your own transformations, so we can all be inspired by the creativity and care growing in your gardens. If today's visit left you smiling or sparked an idea, I'd be grateful if you gave this video a gentle thumbs up. It helps other garden lovers find our little corner of inspiration. And if you haven't already subscribed to Golden Seniors Living, where together we'll keep finding ways to let our creativity bloom, our stories grow, and our gardens become living legacies. Until next time, dear friend, may your days be full of light, your hands full of life, and your heart full of the gentle joy that comes from giving second chances to things, to places, and to yourself. Happy gardening.